This is episode number 29, You Being You, Offering Your Presence to Life, subtitled An Online Home for Sharing Wisdom to Connect Us with Our True Nature, Ourselves, and Others, on the Alternative Health Tools podcast. This is John Beath, and I work with Lisa. I'm the producer here. And you don't hear from me a lot, but I'm probably going to start hearing a little bit more from me. This show, actually, we're releasing early. We normally release a show, an episode that we've recorded about every 2 weeks. But this became very timely because of a workshop and a launch that's happening October 18th. So the other thing I also want to let you know, this is not only in audio form, but also we're blabbing now. You probably caught wind of that from the last episode. But I highly encourage you to go to Alternative Health Tools Podcast. And when you get this episode, you can be listening to it as a podcast, but you can also view the replay, the video that we did of it. And I also encourage you to go click on the button to subscribe to the Blab channel, which is blab.im/althealthtools, and you'll get notified when there's a new Blab coming around from Alternative Health Tools. Now for the show.
All right, welcome back. This is Lisa Thorpe with Alternative Health Tools, and this is our second Blab podcast where we're live in the internet, and I'm very excited to be blabbing and podcasting with our guests today, with Cameron and Brian, with You Being You, all the way from New Zealand. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for making time this morning to be with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kia ora. We're deeply honored. Thank you so much.
It's mutual. So as you may know, Dr. Marie Shea, who is a part of You Being You, is an acquaintance and a friend of mine. We were in a functional medicine study group for a number of years where we'd meet and we'd pick topics and we would bring research and share research. And so she recently mentioned You Being You, and as the email that you saw said that you guys are about to launch this program. And I just fell in love. I resonate so much with what it is you are doing with this program. And I'm not going to try to describe it. I'm just going to let you tell everybody, and then we can answer people's questions. But go ahead and just share with everybody, what is You Being You?
Well, it's essentially a conversation that we're starting to encourage people to just really connect with their true nature. And the more of us that connect with our individual true nature, the more we can feel connected to what's going on inside us and, bring our inner outer worlds together. And then we have more, real opportunity to have genuine relationships with those around us. And we have language and frameworks for seeing how to do that. So that's essentially what our program's about. It's giving language for how our inner worlds connect to the outer world and how we can bring more of our true nature forward.
So really that's mental and emotional health and self-development and just overall health. I mean, because if we're emotionally healthy, we're physically healthy. So these are some pretty powerful tools, I would imagine.
Yes, and it's very, very interesting. One of the things that with these programs, what we are trying to accomplish is basically giving people the understanding of what's happening, because a lot of people know that something is happening in their lives. There's always change, but there's no vocabulary or no understanding of what's happening inside to share that with others. And that's a little bit what we're all missing as a society, like humanity. We are missing something that allows us to connect both with ourselves on what's happening, and also with other people. So if we can understand and start to get a language to have that, then all of our daily happenings, we can make something different than what's going on today for a lot of people, that everything is so busy, so stressed out, so overwhelming. And it's a lot of that is just because there's not an understanding.
Right. And I think I'm glad that you mentioned about the stress levels, because I get the sense a lot of this work is about getting people out of survival mode and into higher consciousness, or a more rational and enlightened consciousness, so that they can experience a better life. And I was reading the website, and one of the main principles, which is also something I love, is that everything is energy. So maybe, Cameron, you can talk a little bit more about that principle, about how it's coming from everything is energy.
Yeah, sure. Well, I feel that everything is energy, and science is now catching up with what the mystics and the ancients have always known, that there's just one energy weaving through everything, and that we're all part of that energy. So in essence, we're all the universe in its little packages. And I'm really excited by this time, because I feel that now that science is validating that, and that the mindfulness movement has become mainstream, it's really providing an opportunity for people to connect to this notion that, who you are is an energy being, and you're actually emitting that energy in every exchange you're in, and every time you show up in your life, you're influencing the environment that you're in. And if we can understand that energy and power are the same thing, and we come into our own energy and awareness of our own energy and how to balance that within ourselves, then we become empowered. And the thing is, there's plenty of power. We can share it. There's no need to compete for it. And if we're being ourselves, then we're, standing in our own energy, being present, available to what's going on, and able to connect with what's happening around us. So we're all in the sharing of that energy. And I feel that this time that we're in, it's an awakening to a new energy. We're being shaken up and woken up. And the energy of Earth, Mother Earth herself, is initiating this change, I feel. That we are the beings that stand between the earth and the heavens. So, feng shui is the awareness of how to position the energies on earth so that they can receive the change of heaven and create the flow of heavenly energy. And so the changes that the earth is having is causing this downward flow shift, and it's pouring through people. And if the energies are not aligned, then it's a really distressing, disturbing time, which is why a lot of people are wobbly right now.
You mentioned in your book a story about post-earthquake and how it really shifted consciousness for a lot of people in a way, in a direction that you wouldn't suspect, because you'd think right after an earthquake that everybody would be in panic, and I'm sure there was panic. However, in the book, you talk about this overwhelming calm and a tremendous amount of empathy that people were experiencing. And I think that you identify this type of incident as an access to our higher consciousness, which is amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm amazed that you've read the book.
I'm not done with it, but I did. Really? Got it on my Kindle on my phone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, I think that, or I recognize, that I was there in the big Christchurch earthquake, and I was at Tai Chi at the time, and I was really feeling the energy that day. We were doing the openings, and I was like, wow, I'm feeling it. Like, this is great. And then boom, up comes this whatever volt from the earth. And what absolutely stunned me about that day was that beyond the immediate, I'm still alive, and there were 300 160 people that weren't alive after that day. But it was like, once everybody moved past the, okay, I'm alive, there was this immediate leaning into each other. And so you mentioned, Lisa, that there's this survival consciousness that we're all in right now. Mm-hmm. And I believe that that's like a physiological response to the stresses. So people are just, programmed into this adrenalized response to life. It doesn't have to be that way, because if we shift out of what's wrong and move into what's right and lean into looking for what's good and true and beautiful in our lives and the people around us that are those beautiful beings, then we can really shift the energy. And so what I saw in Christchurch in the days and weeks that followed the quake is that that's what people instinctively did. So that's instinctual, and that knowing of how to lean in and help each other, it's there. It's never gone anywhere. Only we're so kind of sitting on the edge of our seat in a stress state that we're not able to access that instinctual wisdom. So you being you is a conversation about reconnecting to what we already know. It's really basic. It's really simple knowledge. And yet it's not there in the mainstream education. So we don't learn these things at school. And yet we know them when we need them. So we're actually encouraging how to connect with that now, so we can start to live from that place.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that there's programs like this one being launched. I was just listening to a video by a neuroscientist by the name of Rick Hansen, and he was talking about how the survival and how Mother Nature keeps us anxious because we have the limbic or reptilian brain and the mammalian brain or the mouse brain and then the monkey brain, and how these are our primal drives. And so Mother Nature literally keeps us on edge, anxious, in fear of our survival, in concern for our nourishment, in concern for our ability to connect. And programs like You Being You, as Rick Hansen explains, allow us to learn how to calm those layers, those more prehistoric layers of our inner brain, and access our higher brain, our frontal lobe, I believe it's the prefrontal cortex or neocortex, and reach what he calls the green zone, and get out of that survival, that survival mode that everybody does seem to be in, that instead of kind of being in the green and living in nature, which was something that you talk a lot about, that I believe is so true, that when we're connected to nature, when we spend time in nature, we're able to stay connected to our higher consciousness, our frontal lobe, literally, and be us, be who we truly are, instead of in reactive mode. And I'm sure driving around in cars and sucking down caffeine and sugar every day, all day, isn't helping us either. But it's good to have positive, proactive things. So what is the program and when is it going to start?
The program, the first one that is coming out on the 18th. So we are 10 days almost, it's just less than 2 weeks away of launching the first program that it's called What You Don't Learn at School. So basically, the idea with the name was, when we were talking about everything, like we've been sharing conversations between us, that it's how all of this is coming to life. And we were saying, like, this is something that we haven't learned at school. Like, we had the possibility, because of our life circumstances, to be introduced to some teachings that actually enabled us to see life as energy and have a different perspective on life. But for most people, they don't even know that this is there, that this is a possibility for them to live. And they feel like all of this living in the rat race and keep on going every day just to be able to pay rent, and it's this wheel of going and going and going, because a lot of people don't know that there's another way. And that's something that we were saying, that it's such a basic thing that we also learn at school. And that was basically something that why we wanted to have the name of the program like this. And basically a lot of the program is going to be centered in the understanding of us as an energy being and our relation with the universe and our relationship with ourselves and all of our layers, because we are made up of a lot of layers. We are not just something that perhaps now you see me as whatever you see on the camera, you hear my voice, you hear my accent, but that's not all of me. There's so much more that perhaps someone with just looking at me doesn't see that, or even I cannot recognize other parts of me. So a lot of this is bringing the understanding of what is it that we are doing here in this life, and how to have a better understanding of our life, how to have a better understanding of the connections that we can make, and also how to live a life that it's a little bit more relaxed, more easy, with a different perspective that what most of us are living today.
I want to mention we have a participant, a listener who's sharing that breath work is a very important and powerful key to a solution to what we're talking about, that by using breath work, and he's specifically talking about breathing, a breath practice where your right hand is on your heart and you're breathing into your nose and out your nose 10 times. So this is a very simple exercise, and Austin is sharing it with us and saying this is a very simple exercise. The hand over the heart, breathing in and out of the nose 10 times in order to reaccess our higher consciousness, our frontal lobe, and get out of those survival modes. So I just want to thank him for offering that information, and I think it's a wonderful tool in addition to all of this content that you're going to be offering. And so now it's not just you two. You have a really amazing panel of people that are participating and going to be educating in you being you, correct?
Yeah, we do, yeah. And really, I feel that this time we're in the Aquarian age, and it's the age of group. So it's really important for us to come together and work together to become our greatest possibilities. We can't do this alone, and we're meant to be doing things in group, So as soon as this vision started coming, I had been talking for years, ranting and raving like, oh God, why is the world so weird? And, this is just nuts and, feeling like I'm a, crazy person. And I kept saying to friends around me, we're in this new paradigm. We need a map, how do we know how to bring this new consciousness on? And the more I talked about it, the more I realized, well, I could have a go at creating a map. I could lay out some steps and stages, and then, who would I want to have as guides, and who have been guides for me in my life journey. So I started talking with friends about it and, saying, look, would you be willing to make a contribution to this program? And so really that's how that unfolded. And then some of the people are people like Marie, who you mentioned, and Marie's been on a retreat with me in China, and there's another friend, Jew from London. He's a marketing guy, and he's really into the 5 elements, and it's changed his life, like having these teachings. So it's like just gathering the people that have the heart and energy for this, and saying, let's step it out. We don't really know where we're going with this, but we're taking one step at a time now. We have the first course, and, we have 7 little subjects, and some of the people in the group will contribute to those. and just away we go. And I feel like that's part of what's needed for this time. Like there's so much isolation and loneliness and sense of separation, which is the great. And to get out of that, we need to lean in. We need to come in together and support each other, because this is not a lone game. This is like a group and community shift that we're needing to make. So to gather the people around us and do the bit that we can do, I feel is the most needed thing in this time. Like we can all do a bit, like what you're doing. You're joining with John and whoever else is behind the scenes with you, bringing this radio show to air. So we're all doing our bit,
right?
And there's so much power in that collective consciousness. And when we come into the awareness and presence of people that have heart for what we're doing, then we are in the present. We're not projecting into some future place, which is where all the distractions and the stress comes from. That's the beta brain rhythm, right? So you're talking about frontal brain. So frontal brain is here now thinking. And as the person who suggested before, that's where your breath brings you to here and now. So how do we get into here and now? We want to be into what we're into doing. So we want to be with the people that are into what we're into. And then we lean into each other. And I feel like, the drug epidemic and stuff, these kids getting out of it. They're getting out of it because they're not into it.
Right.
So, we need to.
Well, that's that layer of the brain that's craving connection, and with lack of information for them to understand that the connection is actually there within them, and that in fact there are people for them to connect with, and to get out of the red zone, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And as Cameron was saying, that one of the things that we recognize all the time is that everybody that, especially I see it a lot with people from my generation, that people are not connecting with the ways that the world is, like the education system or a lot of different things. Everybody thinks that they are alone in what's happening to them, like all of the stress and everything, especially with social media. It's really easy. You see everybody's happy, everybody's doing well, and you think that, oh my God, like I'm all alone in all of this stress and overwhelming stuff. And the reality is that we all have things happening, and just because we are not able to really be present in our energy, in our bodies, in a calm mind, then we cannot understand that everybody's going through that. So if I understand that I'm not alone, then I can be present for someone else, because I understand that they are going to be feeling the same way that I'm feeling. At least something similar, that there's some distress going on. So if I can be present and really understand with, as Austin was saying, with some breathing or with some body energy practice, if I can understand that, and if I can be present in my body, I can be present for someone else. And that makes a lot of difference for a lot of people, just by being present and acknowledging that, oh, there's something happening. So I'm here for you. We can talk about it. And that's what the conversation that we're trying to create is. It's a healing conversation. Just by being present and being there for someone.
And offering empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much research about how empathy changes the brain, and it further develops the rational centers of the brain and allows us to be basically a better person. And I was really happy to hear, Cameron, you talk about the beta brain, because this is something that I've been working with, specifically with the frequencies, healing frequencies, for the last 12 years. And a lot of people don't realize that our brain is emitting a frequency, that everything is a frequency. And beta is the frequency of our thinking mind. It's a very fast, busy, disconnecting frequency. And because we're in that train, most of the time we are very disconnected and not feeling empathy, not feeling connected. And it used to be that we spent most of our days out in nature. And Austin, again, is contributing beautifully. He's mentioning about how you don't need to understand this, that just being in nature, it does calm the brain. Like the entire body will start to resonate with the earth. The earth resonates, I think it's like 7.7 some hertz. It's an alpha frequency. And this is a meditative frequency that the brain oftentimes doesn't ever get a chance to enter into, because we go from this fast thinking beta and then drop straight through alpha into theta, which is rapid eye movement, the dream state, and then into delta, which is dreamless sleep. So I really believe most of us are alpha deprived, just like we're vitamin D, vitamin C, mineral deprived. And and here's where I think information is power, because when we understand that, now we understand more about why do we need nature. We can go in nature and receive the benefit. We don't need to understand it. It's not necessary. But if you understand it, because so many people, they really are, especially Western society, living in their constant thinking, achieving this drive to get more, those primal drives. So I think it's helpful for people to understand, because when they understand, now they're going to go and search for information like you being you, or just take time to go get in nature and find those tools that bring us right back into the green zone, right back into us being ourselves. And Cameron, you mentioned 7 subjects. What are the 7 topics that you'll be talking about?
Wow, gee.
It's on the website. People can go. Yeah, it's all right. We can just talk about a couple of them, and people can go to youbeingyou.org. And on that note, actually, they can go to Alternative Health Tools, the podcast website, alternativehealthtools.com. We will have show notes. We'll have this recording, and additional links to everything that we're talking about. So if there's something interesting that you hear, don't worry, it's all going to be there for you to link back into and send us information. So yeah, Cameron, just we don't have to talk about all of them, but just maybe some of your favorites.
Well, my favorite one is probably the first one, you and the universe. Like, how do you belong to the universe, and how do we see that in the context of, Earth, Earth down here, heaven above, and, you in between. And I know in the first day of acupuncture school, like, wow, that was the first thing that captivated me, just this notion that we're living between these these two worlds. Mm-hmm. And so, we are the fusion. We are the place where the energy of the body meets the soul and the spirit. And that energy body is the balancing place. So we talk about that, and we talk about the energy body and how it's made up of the layers, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and then the awareness that's just out beyond that. And so we really explore how those levels relate to each other, go together, and, how when you're playing music, you get happy, and how when you're maybe emotionally distressed, you feel tired or tight in the body, like how those layers all connect with each other. And then we talk about change, the dynamics of change, and how to ride the energy of change. So, energy travels in waves, right? So does change, like we can be at the beginning of a change, or really moving into a change, or we're right at the peak of a change, everything's happening. So you've got to paddle like a big surfer and jump on the wave and, so like learning how to just ride these changes, because we're in change all the time, and knowing how to, identify where you are on the wave is really helpful. And then talking about the heart. So, you mentioned the brain, and, the Heart Math Institute have done this wonderful research that, the brain wave is 5,000 times stronger than the heart wave, rather. Right. Is 5,000 times stronger than the brain waves, right? So why is heart so important? When we say, listen to your heart, follow your heart, what does that mean? Like, what is heart? what is heart and the concept of consciousness, and why are we needing to shift into heart-centered awareness to resonate with this time? Because it's the heart that connects everything. And it's the heart that brought you to this show and us to you, and there's that resonance. Mm-hmm. So as we, really develop a relationship with our own heart, then that is where we connect with the queen of our being, the knower of all. And the more that we engage with that knowing part of ourselves, the more we come into, following our own unique destiny. So that's a part of it too, the whole destiny call. And Brian is going to be doing Tibetan yoga practices. So we met because of energy. I use a friend's apartment to work in Auckland a couple of days a week, and Brian was staying there, and I came to the apartment and walked into the room. I thought, oh, what's going on? It's different, And Brian had been there a week, and I came in the following week and thought, I want to meet whoever's staying here. So I had his number, so I called him up, and, we started talking, and he introduced me to Tibetan yoga practices, which I've been doing now for 5 months since I met him. And it is a remarkable practice. And Austin was saying before about the breath, like, I've not done a practice where you breathe in and out of the nose and mouth simultaneously, which is what you do with Tibetan yoga. And I found of all the practices I've done, Qigong and Tai Chi and yoga practice, this is the most powerful way of clearing and opening the energy flows of acupuncture, like the meridians of acupuncture. And the Tibetan yoga exercises are perfectly matched. And Tibetan yoga is a synthesis of, I'll let Brian talk about that, but it's an amazing practice. So we're having practices as part of each teaching. We're going to have a video practice of this stuff.
Yeah, and as Cameron was saying, like, one of the very important things that it's part of the understanding also what you were saying, that information is very important, but also having an embodying experience. So we want to embody everything that we learn. And it's what we are aiming to do is very simple language and very simple practices. Because a lot of times people think that in order to make these changes in their life, or to go into a more spiritual life or more mindful life, or more having more awareness, that's something huge, that it's a very difficult thing to achieve. And it's very simple. When I was introduced, I remember, to Tibetan yoga, it was like the wow moment for me. Like, I was doing one exercise and it was like, wow, what's this? Like, what's happening? And I realized I had never been in touch with the energy in my body before like that. And it's a little bit what Cameron is saying, that it's very, very simple movements. Once people will see and practice, they are very simple movements. And it's all about understanding how to move the energy and understanding what's happening in the body, understanding what's happening inside. Like, if we understand that energy moves inside the body as well as it moves outside of the body, and the key to understand energy is feelings. If we are in our bodies and we can feel what's happening, then we understand where the energy is moving. So there's a lot of different entryways that we can have. Like, for example, if I want to feel something here on my shoulder, I can move it. Or I can bring my hand there and move it. Yeah, and that's something that a lot of times, especially with the shoulders, that's something that I always pay a lot of attention to. And I always start each class that I make with the shoulders, because a lot of people get all of that here. And even here, sitting, like, why are we not moving every few minutes? Like, it's so relaxing, and it brings our awareness there. And that's one of the things that, like, if we understand,
working, right?
yeah,
we're doing the chair dance over here. We're like, yay!
and it's always it's a lot about playing also. Like this that's happening. Like it's about being a little bit playful and like being a little bit happy with what's happening. Like a lot of times it's very very serious. Like when I was living in California and I was studying there, like it was a much more rigorous thing and like having to practice and in a certain way and all of the rituals and everything. But you can do exactly the same thing and being a little bit more free and playful and not having to do everything so strict. But at the same time, it's about learning how to have more awareness. And the awareness, you can bring it through movement, or if you know how to be aware of a part of your body, for example, you can bring directly your awareness. But for a lot of people, it's going to be much easier. Like, let's say, I'm going to move the shoulders. And then because of that, I'm creating energy movement in this area. So then if I stop, then I can be more aware of what's happening in this area. So it's a little bit the understanding of how awareness, and that's one of the topics that we're going to talk about in the course, that how awareness is the key to the universe. It's the key to experience. Like awareness, it's such a big word, and having the experience of what awareness is, it's at least for me, has changed my perspective on the way that I live life. Because for me, living each moment with awareness, it's what made this shift. It's what allows me to be more centered, more balanced, and more open. Because once you have awareness, you start expanding that. And then everything in life can be different. You can see it in a different light. It can be, everything is beautiful. Everything is perfect as it is. Even I am perfect as I am.
Right.
So a lot of the time I don't recognize that. But we are all whole. We are all complete. We just have to get rid of all of these conditionings that we've been given and all of the things that we have on top of us. So that's something that with a lot of these practices, I love that they just talk about how to get rid of stuff. We are not learning anything. We are just unlearning unhelpful things.
Yeah. And I love that you're talking about it being a unique experience and all of the different access points, because there is this, there's many ways to achieve the same goal. Some of them more complex, some of them very, very simple, and all of them equally as worth trying and worth learning about, I think. So you guys, this is launching. I want to remember again. I think it's October 18th.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it's going to start with how many speakers and how long will it be?
Well, we're doing online. The first online rollout is going to be 7 weeks. So each week there'll be one session coming out, and mostly the first one will be me as the main teacher and Brian doing a practice, which will be a separate video practice. So the first series will be like a 40 to 45 minute teaching session, and then the same amount-ish of a practice, and then a downloadable PDF with each chapter. So we're calling them chapters because that's what the platform calls them. And so that, really it's a chance for people to go just really apply the learnings to their own life, like what's going on for you right now, and how does this conversation feed into where you're at in your journey and so forth. And then as we step it out, different people from the group, like one of my friends, she's a psychologist and she's worked a lot with child and family organizations. So she's going to contribute a piece to the Life is for Living, Loving, Evolving, Creating module. So she's going to put a piece into there about development, like how we develop and da-da-da. So really, the first one is mostly Brian and I. And in future, some of the other teachers will be having their own modules. And as we go along, they'll be doing clip-ons to the major framework, which we're just laying foundations right now. And also later today, we made a little clip yesterday about energy, and that's going up on our
Facebook page.
On the Facebook page. So we're going to have 2 or 3 of those come out in the next few days, and that will just give people a chance to experience the teachings and have a look at us and, try before you buy sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we do have a Facebook page, and we'd love people to come and, join the conversation, because a great motivation for us is to spread healing conversation, to say, look, here's some ways to be looking at this time we're in, and it's all about looking for what is working in our lives and to lean into what's good and true and beautiful and empower ourselves and others to, see this is an amazing time. Like, it's a time of awakening, and we need to just shift the story. Like, right. The story is not what's on the TV.
Oh, no.
Your program right now, there's so much good and amazingness happening. And yet people need help to see that. And so,
it's true. I think the statistics are that violent crime has actually been down and been going down for years, but you never hear about that in the news. We only hear about the terrible things, because if it bleeds, it leads, right? I mean, that's just the way the media is built, and it's owned by, unfortunately, big pharma. But it's wonderful that we have these new mediums, these new ways, like Blab and Facebook, to start to connect to people and to talk about what's really going on, and to present tools like what you're presenting that gives people a way to get to stay in their higher consciousness, in their more rational, peaceful, happy, joyful state. And I love, you mentioned destiny, helping people to actually find their destiny, which I think is a big deal. I think a lot of people are wondering, what am I supposed to be doing? And, how do I get in touch? Like you said, well, what heart? How do I get in touch with my heart? What is my destiny? So I think that's a big opportunity for people that are going to participate. And, I will be participating. I'm gonna definitely join in. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting what you're saying, because as Cameron was saying before, like the shift of what's happening nowadays, it's about the collective.
Right.
So it's about the group and the collective. The interesting thing about that is that we all need to show up, and that's what presence it's teaching us, that we need to show up and we need to be us in the position that we need to be. Like, some of us will be leaders, some of us will be doing a small thing, some of us will be giving our energy into whatever way we can, but it's the power of us that's going to fuel the collective, and that's what's going to make the shift. Like, each thing that we all give, every one of us that is going to make that shift is what's going to make the difference perhaps in a few years, in 10 years, in 20 years. We don't know, but things are changing. And basically, we are the ones that are doing that, each of us. And the entire movement of having a lot of more people being introduced to yoga, being introduced to mindfulness, having these words as mainstream, even if people don't really experience a lot of what it is, at least it's out there. It's something that people are seeing. It, like 20 years ago, that wasn't there. Like, I remember when I was young and my mom was doing some of the things, it was a really weird thing. She didn't talk about it.
What was she doing?
She was doing yoga. She was studying Buddhism. Yeah, right. Like, for her, like, her friends didn't know that she was doing that. Like,
right.
Nowadays, it's like, you just, I'm doing this. I'm going to yoga, or I'm doing this. Even if for some people it's only about the physical exercise in yoga, but it's starting to become something different. And that's what's going to create this. The idea that this is starting to be more and more widespread. And when people get there, something is going to resonate with them, whatever it is that it's going to resonate with them. And then nowadays, there's opportunity to follow through with that. Now with the access on the internet, like, it's so much easier to get knowledge and to get content and to get experiences.
I got John just letting me know that if somebody wants to join in, we have an open seat. So if somebody wants to join in and actually be on the live Blab with us, we'd love to have you come in and ask questions and be a more full part of the conversation. Somebody's got to be brave. Come on, get over your animal brain. Do your 5 minutes of breathing. Nobody wants to come on. Nobody's got their camera ready.
What happened to Austin? I think he left it.
He was on a train.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How cool is that? We had somebody with us that was on a train. Austin, are you still with us? I think he's probably got off at his stop, maybe. But it's amazing about our world now that we can communicate this way, that you're in New Zealand on Friday morning and it's Thursday afternoon here in San Diego, and we're communicating and we have people on trains jumping in and contributing. I think it's awesome.
Yes.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think that's that connection that we are experiencing through the internet, like it's really mirrored by that connection on the inside. And if we can start having inside out conversations, then it all shifts. And I guess, Brian was saying about his mum, doing this stuff that was weird in the day. Well, when I started acupuncture, people would say to me, what's acupuncture? So the first few years, that was the thing. That was the question. What's acupuncture? And then, and then there was a few years of, well, does acupuncture work? And then it was, how does it work? And now it's like, who do you go to? So, these changes that we're talking about, they're going to come pretty fast, actually. And, in the next 10 years, we're going to see a really radical shift in what's going on and how we're connecting, how we're being together, and the conversations we're having. Because it's quickening now. And that's the whole thing about the Mayan calendar shift from 2012 is that, time is speeding up. The need for getting on with our work and bringing our contributions forward is really, prodding at people now. So each of us will be feeling there's something that's annoying us, or that there's something that we need to do, and just follow that out, step that out, take that little whisper that you're feeling and connect with that and just step it out, take a little step towards what you're really being called to, because that is the time that we're in,
Right.
And
you be you.
Yeah, that's right. You be you.
Right. You be you. Be the change. Well, that's ancient wisdom. Just be the change. Be what you want to see in the world. Yeah. And by being who you truly are and in integrity, you're going to be that change that you want to see in the world. Well, I'm so thrilled to have taken this time today. I want to see, is there anyone else that has any questions or anything else that you want to share today, Cameron or Brian, before we wrap up?
The thing I'd say the most is look around you for, who you can help. Like, we can all be healers. And what I really recognize in the last 10 years of clinic is that there's so much need there now. There's so much need there in the general population for people to be helping others. And, for sure, 20% of the people out there are going to need people like me, people with a lot of clinical experience and skills and rah-de-rah. But 80% of the time, what people most need when they're having a challenge is presence. They need someone around them that's showing up, being there, listening, not opinionating, just listening and being there. And it's really a really needed service right now. If you have someone in your life that needs help, then just show up for them, just be near them and listen. And if you are someone who needs help, then get yourself into the company of someone that's steady. And you don't even need to say a lot if you don't want to share what's going on for you. But if you're having a wobbly time, then just get yourself into the presence of some stable, steady, sort of relatively happy people. And maybe if you're really alone and feeling isolated, like go to the library, sit in the library, or, go to a farmer's market at the weekend and sit and have a cup of tea, So it's just like bring yourself into community, because in relationships we heal. And this is a really big part of our focus in You Being You. It's like share, connect, heal. Like when we learn about who we are and when we share that knowledge and we connect with others, then we heal. Like we get wounded in relationship, we heal in relationship. And this is about, activating a collective healing movement that's based on, leaning into each other, showing up for each other, being present, recognizing that presence alone is a healing force in the world, and that we can all bring ourselves forward and we all have something special and unique to offer.
It's true. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Cameron and Brian. I'm going to wrap it up now, and I don't think anybody else. One last chance. Anyone have any questions or want to sign on? I don't think so. Okay, well, thank you so much for spending some time this morning coming all the way from New Zealand, and we're very much looking forward to your program launching on October 18th. Folks can log on at youbeingyou.org. They can also find more information if they go to alternativehealthtools.com, our podcast website. And thank you so much. Just really enjoyed today. You guys have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your recognition and your contribution and your time and your energy. And to you too, John. Thank you.